right, look, we back with another reaction video. Look, opponents before and after facing Sean O'Malley. So look, we know Sean O'Malley won. He won the belt. When was it? Like 2 weeks ago? He got the knockout, won the belt. We finna get into like what his opponents say before and after. To be completely honest, I think that was my first time like watching an actual fight of his. I don't even know if I'd really just seen the highlights. I just knew he was good. Like, that's me personally. I just knew he was good. But we finna get to this.
Oftentimes, more casual viewers mistake the UFC from the sport of MMA. It has gotten so big over the years that I can't stop hearing, "Hey yo, show me some UFC moves," or "Let's go outside and do some UFC stuff." I have to remind them that the UFC is not the sport MMA is. So, what exactly is the UFC?
I think Dana eats, sleeps, and breathes it. It is his identity. Yeah. It is his lifestyle. It is him. The UFC is Dana White, and Dana White is the UFC, and that's a beautiful thing.
The only answer is the UFC is a business, and putting on great fights is one of the objectives, but making a profit is just as vital.
It's a crazy way to make a living. I think you should get the most amount of money you can possibly get.
Yep.
But it's also a business.
The company may deny it, but corporate favoritism or Dana White privilege exists.
There is no such thing as Dana White privilege in this company.
And if the big boss senses even a silver of star potential in an athlete, the machine will strap a rocket to his back and push that fighter to the moon. More often than not, the experiment fails. The career crashes and burns inside the octagon, and the fighter ends up on the prelims. But very rarely, like once in a blue moon, it actually works.
McGregor
White laughs his way to the bank. And a brand new Lambo with his newest superstar right alongside him.
Las Vegas, Dana White, the king of Dublin, the notorious Conor McGregor.
Sean O'Malley is the most recent example. As soon as he came into the public eye, he was doubted and underestimated.
It's a striking game for him right now. Dude, there is a whole nother aspect, and that's called wrestling and jiu-jitsu.
His look was weird. His persona was cringe. His path was destined to fail like most before him.
Oh, that's funny. I wasn't ready for that one.
Yet Sean O'Malley is the new bantamweight champion of the world.
That's insanity.
He was handpicked by the UFC to lead the bantamweight division into relevancy, and while he had a fast track to the title, when it came time to perform, Sugar delivered and proved them all wrong.
He proved it tonight, and he did something that a lot of guys couldn't have done to me in a very long time, and I think that's worth something to note.
Out of 100 failed projects, there has to be a success story, and Sean O'Malley is one of a few, and he told you so. Welcome to the fighting business. The biggest star at 135 has captured the title.
This is a nice channel. I like this. Y'all hit that subscribe button on both channels, mine and his.
There's no denying that O'Malley had an easier road to the title. And while you can protect the prospect with favorable matchups and long layoffs, you cannot just hand him the championship. To become champion, you have to be really fucking good. And at UFC 292, Sean O'Malley proved that he was when he knocked out the most successful champion in the second round. Out of all the contenders, Petr Yan to Henry Cejudo, it was Sean who ended the most successful title reign in bantamweight history. I'm not going to start calling him the 135 GOAT just yet, but facts are facts. When the time comes to shut everyone up, Sean does it. And this is how he began.
Let's get it. This is well put together too.
Sean O'Malley was the breakout star of the first season of the Dana White Contender Series. He walked in and scored a first-round knockout, and Dana White awarded him the contract without a second thought.
I'm looking for somebody who has that thing. Sean O'Malley is that thing. He's the guy.
He went on to style on a few more opponents in the UFC, but his first big fight came at UFC 250 against a UFC veteran, Eddie Wineland. This fight was set for the main card of the pay-per-view.
One of these he got hurt.
At the end of his career, he was a former WEC champion, a UFC title challenger, and
like when did he got hurt? So that's what he ended up doing. Like
having the
here's his like
opportunity
leg or ankle.
here?
If it derails them, I'm sorry, but I'm here to win. I'm not here to be looked over. Really don't care. You know, I've been doing this for 17 years. I've been doing this since 2003. 54 is a cool thing to do.
This was O'Malley's moment to make a good first impression, as Eddie still had a following and was much respected. In an empty arena, Sean opened the main card, and it only took him 2 minutes to finish Eddie Wineland. Even more impressively, he simply walked off after scoring the knockout. Very Mark Hunt-esque. You don't usually see a lot of walk-off KOs at 135.
What? That's the most disrespectful thing in history, man. A walk-off KO is the absolute most disrespectful thing you could do to a human being in the octagon. If you hit me and you get a clean shot on me, just finish me off. I'd rather you just go and like hit me and stuff. Don't just walk off. Cause I'm not gonna take that well. I know me, I'm not gonna take that well. Especially as a fighter. And a fighter, you're wired different too. But I would have been I would have been mad. It would look like Khabib Khan after that fight where Khabib jumped the what's it called? I would have tackled that man.
Look effortless. His striking was clean and flawless,
just
and the casual viewers definitely took notice of the new talent. The Sugar Show was now fully approved.
Yeah, don't just I'm over here like this and you just walking off.
The casual fans
you gotta
hopped on the train as well.
Nah, I would have been hot.
The 5th UFC fight for the surging superstar went horribly wrong. At UFC 252, O'Malley faced Chito Vera, and he was finished in the first round. A leg kick by Vera damaged a nerve or something, and while Sugar disputed the result, the loss was on his record, and he was no longer undefeated. The floodgates of hatred opened up, and O'Malley only ignited the flames brighter when he talked about remaining undefeated and the Sugar State Athletic Commission.
How many thousands of leg kicks been landed? I don't know what it is. You watched that fight, I was piecing him up. You were winning the fight? I was piecing him up.
So, but Sean, he got lucky?
I talked to the Sugar State Athletic Commission, and they took it away. It's not even...
Okay, I like that.
He was a broken man, they said, and he was going to shatter completely in the next outing. After healing up, Sean accepted a fight against Thomas Almeida. That's a forgotten name. Once upon a time, Thomas Almeida was one of the top prospects at 135. But once Cody Garbrandt knocked him out, he was never the same. But
shoot, now Cody ain't the same at all. That's one of them ones that were like, once he lost, I don't know what happened.
He was still decent enough to dispose of the frail Sean
O'Malley. He kept
O'Malley.
getting knocked out. I was like,
this is where
dang.
the misconception of Sean being weak began. He couldn't take a leg kick from Vera. He wasn't built for the sport.
Do you think that calf kicks or leg kicks are going to be an important factor to get the victory against Sean?
I think it's a very important part of the game plan. I'm ready to submit him, to knock him out. I'm ready for anything.
Every leg kick Almeida landed on O'Malley only pissed him off more. He was on a mission that night, and he put on a brilliant display at UFC 260, eventually getting the knockout in the 3rd round. Start to finish, the fight wasn't even close.
He's trolling.
Eventually getting
Why
the knockout
is he trolling like that?
Start to finish, the fight wasn't even close.
I feel I wasn't there, you know.
That wasn't in front of him. That had to be. That's good
Start
editing.
to finish, the fight wasn't even close.
I feel
that was good editing. I was about to say, man, that's they wouldn't even let you be that close.
100% there. There's like afraid
he
of
beat
something,
the brakes off that man.
When you step inside the octagon, you gotta be all in, you know. And I wasn't there.
And the fractured hype train began to rev up for another round. After returning to the win column at UFC 260, O'Malley had the option of climbing the ranks at 135 and competing against the top 5 or top 10, but he stayed on course and picked Raulian Paiva as his next opponent. Paiva was not a top 10 fighter, but you could feel that his phase was coming to an end. O'Malley had started calling out the top fighters, and he even got Cody Garbrandt to yell at him during a press conference.
Who the fuck have you fought?
Why'd you go down to 25? I thought
I'll weigh in tomorrow at 25 and fight you at 35 and still kick your ass.
That's how stupid you are. Why would you do that?
Easy.
He said that's how stupid
interaction
you
with
are.
Cody.
That's one of them insults. You try to like sound tough with the insult, but it don't make sense. I said that don't even make sense. You'd be like, crap, it don't. It sounded good.
That's how stupid you are. Why would you do that?
Easy.
That little interaction with Cody overshadowed the actual fight against Paiva. But to refresh, Paiva was 21-3, and his last bout was a fight of the night. And much like Cody, Paiva didn't have too much respect for Sean.
Yeah, he's a fun guy, all this clown stuff that he does. And at the end of the day, the people that follow him are gonna get to see me and, you know, perhaps take note of me. He's got a lot of skill, and he can be a threat and a good fighter against certain fighters. But with all due respect, I don't see a threat.
In hindsight, this was the last stop for O'Malley before he entered the top 10, and he needed an impressive performance. Paiva was experienced and skilled enough to be a decent test, and Sugar passed. One round was all it took, and the hype was right back on track. By now, the Sugar brand had been built up enough, and no matter how much you hated him, you had to admit that Sean was just too good for fighters outside the top 10. It was time to finally embark on the championship trek, and upon signing a new contract, the biggest star at 135 entered the top 5.
Dana White did an interview and he said, you know, like, we're taking our time with Sean O'Malley. He's not Hamza Chimaev was the example he gave.
He's not ready. You know, you guys want to throw him to the wolves. You don't move somebody that fast unless they're Hamza Chimaev. Yeah. You don't just turn O'Malley around and throw him in there against killers. It's not how it works.
Dana's opinion isn't gonna, that's his opinion.
Once Sugar re-signed with the UFC, it was high time he started competing with the actual elite of the division. The first true test for him was Pedro Munoz at UFC 276, but an eye poke in the second round led to a no contest. This bout was supposed to answer questions, but we got nothing.
And Sean might be teaching us something here because a check is wildly painful, and he felt as though he was winning the fight. As a matter of fact, he thought he was hurting Pedro.
Just a few months later, Sean O'Malley versus Piotr No Mercy Yan was announced. Piotr Yan was still considered by many to be the uncrowned champion, and going from Pedro to Piotr was a massive jump in competition. If the Pedro fight was going to answer questions, the Yan fight would either catapult O'Malley into stardom or shatter his hype for good.
I have a good understanding of what his level is at right now. And this Saturday night you're going to find out too.
Do you think Sean O'Malley's a problem?
That's funny.
I realize his skills, but I don't think it's an unsolvable problem for me.
Yeah. Piotr Yan was still the scariest dude at 135, and in the pre-fight press conference, he made it clear that he did not like Sean O'Malley.
Just look at him, he's like a whore on the side of the road.
Or maybe he didn't respect him at all. He was cool with Sterling right beside him, but he seemed almost disgusted at the sight of O'Malley. No respect at all. To be honest, it was hard to respect the record as O'Malley had yet to win against the top 10 opponents, but in the featured bout of UFC 280, O'Malley did it again. By that point, we knew he had skilled, just didn't know if he had the heart and will to get back up. That night in Abu Dhabi, we found the answer. Piotr was supposed to run through the Conor McGregor wannabe, but O'Malley made it a war, even hurting the boogeyman of 135 on the feet. It went the distance, and for the first time, you saw that Piotr Yan had actually taken damage. Maybe the protected prospect did have a shot at capturing gold, and while the decision was controversial,
oh, he got a big cut.
Even if he had taken a loss that night, the MMA fandom would have appreciated Sean O'Malley. After the decision was announced,
people say this decision was rigged. I don't know. I think I could see it either way.
Piotr simply walked out of the cage, but he did react on Twitter later on, and I don't blame him. Regardless, Sean O'Malley got...
Because I didn't really watch the fight like that. I seen some of it. I don't know, because people were like, what? Like, I seen the video Khabib react to it. He was like, how?
His ticket to championship contention. He hung in there with Yan, punched him in the face, made him stagger and bleed, and he walked out of the octagon on his own feet. It was time to put some respect on the guy's name.
But even if it went to decision like that,
considered him just not good enough.
The fact that it was somewhat close,
as elite as the UFC portrayed, the writing was on the wall.
Then that lets you know that he was actually
good. The decision was controversial. The next fight would be for the title. After the victory over former champion Piotr Yan, it was obvious that Sean O'Malley would be the next guy in line for the Bantamweight Championship. Sugar sat on the sidelines and waited for the winner of...
I think I like that Michael Jackson type.
Henry, and unfortunately for him, Sterling, his worst matchup in the division, was the victor. Henry Cejudo would have been a comparatively easier fight, but Sterling was going to be a nightmare, and the defending champion wasted no time in calling out O'Malley right after his victory.
Bring that sweet sugar. You got a whole year. You got a whole year to work on jiu-jitsu. Now Daddy Dana ain't gonna baby no more.
Just one top 5 victory, and already contending for the title. Maybe. No, this was definitely way too soon. Sterling had competed against the best bantamweights, and he was proven, while Sean was out of his elements and vastly unproven. Sterling was able to take down Henry Cejudo, O'Malley would be ragdolled, or as Sterling put it.
My thoughts on Sean O'Malley is that motherfucker is frail.
He said
This
frail.
was the biggest title fight
He
in
said
bantamweight
frail.
history, and no surprise,
He meant that.
the champion was the favorite to win. Sterling took the challenger seriously as he was a legit knockout artist, but he did rightfully so point out that O'Malley had a non-existent resume.
Where the real question is at? Who has this motherfucker fought? Who has this guy fought? He is going to get exposed on Saturday night. Exposed. So it is what it is. We got a couple of days, and I get to whoop this fraud's ass.
It wasn't just Aljo saying this. The majority of fighters and fans did feel that with just one top 5 win, O'Malley was pushed to a title fight too soon.
That is kind of crazy. But what's it called? Called him out. Nah, I don't want to hear. Nah, you can't. I'm sorry. You can't use that. You can't get mad at him if the champ called him out. You know what I mean? You can't be. He called him out. The champ wanted that fight. Nah, I can't let that one slide. Now, I understand him getting pushed. Like, if this was anyone else, I'd be like, yeah, this is way too soon. I don't get it. It makes no sense. He called him out.
No way he was getting past Aljamain Sterling.
I think Sterling wins. He, I think, is a much stronger grappler.
Aljo has a little trouble on the feet, but sooner or later he gets a takedown, and then he dominates and probably subs him.
Who wins? I think Sterling.
In the main event of UFC 292, O'Malley made the walk to the octagon visibly a little nervous, but once he stepped inside the cage,
that man said, I was so nervous.
Right at home, across from him stood Aljamain Sterling, maybe the greatest bantamweight of all time, and it was do or die. One takedown, and the sugar show was all over. But that takedown never came. O'Malley stayed on his feet for the first round, and after escaping a takedown attempt in the second round, he caught the champion with the perfect counter right, scoring one of the biggest upsets of the year. But at the same time, as O'Malley simply walked away from the defeated champion and stared at the crowd, you got the feeling that this was meant to be. Sterling, who played the heel in the build-up, showed up to the post-fight press conference and gave no excuses.
No excuses, Sean. Yeah, he did a good job of the one thing I knew he would be good at, and is that step-back counter.
He handled the loss with
I don't know why he rest him like that. That's why I'm confused.
While he did hope for an immediate rematch, you just know he isn't getting one, because UFC 292 was the dawn of a new era at 130.
That's cold if they don't get this man a rematch. They gotta run it back. And then, see, that's why I don't understand. I understand you want to push what's it called. You get that. Look, he would get the rematch, and then if what's called win, there's a trilogy. You know people love them trilogy fights.
Division for years to come, and the guy responsible, Sean O'Malley.
Or Sean wins again, and that even further proves
17-1 with 12 knockouts and not a single boring performance. Anyone still wondering why this dude is so popular? Early on, he was called the next Conor McGregor, but as time went on, we found out that he is the farthest thing from the next Conor.
That man Conor McGregor's trash talk is so legendary. It's not even funny.
He doesn't talk like Conor. He doesn't walk like Conor. He doesn't even want to be like him. Sean O'Malley wants to be Sean O'Malley.
He sure does. He's nothing like Conor if we give it a butt.
You might dislike his sense of fashion and his personality. You cannot deny that he has earned that bantamweight championship. With the title on his shoulder, Sean O'Malley spearheads the most important era in the division. I don't know, maybe he loses his first title defense, but it's about time we give him respect. 135.
He needs to they need to run that back, run that fight back.
This guy made it to the top and usurped the throne with one punch.
You are what you say you are, a superstar.
Hope you enjoyed, but I gotta bounce. Catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.
Oh, I lucky you to see that Justin Gaethje one too. I lucky you to see that Justin Gaethje. I ain't gonna lie. That's it for the video. Make sure you like, comment, share, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch y'all next one. Till then, I'm out.